My name is Grace Thompson, and at 32, I thought I had finally figured out what family meant. Growing up as the middle child in a household of 5 kids, I learned early that loyalty wasn't just expected, it was survival. My parents, David and Margaret Thompson, raised us with the belief that blood runs thicker than water, and that no matter what happened in the outside world, we always had each other. When my older brother Gregory married Gabrielle Green 4 years ago, I was genuinely thrilled. Gabby, as we all called her, seemed like the sister I'd always wanted but never had. My actual sister Catherine had always been distant and competitive, but Gabby was different. She was warm, funny, and genuinely interested in our family dynamics. She remembered birthdays, brought thoughtful gifts to family gatherings, and most importantly, she seemed to understand the complex web of relationships that made up the Thompson clan. Our family had always been close-knit, perhaps to a fault. Sunday dinners at Mom and Dad's house were mandatory, not optional. We shared everything: financial struggles, relationship problems, career setbacks. Privacy was a foreign concept in our household. If one of us was going through something, we all knew about it within hours. It was both comforting and suffocating, but it was our normal. Gabby fit into this dynamic seamlessly. She attended every family function, participated in our group text chains, and even started hosting some of the holiday gatherings at her and Gregory's house. When I went through my devastating breakup with my long-term boyfriend 2 years ago, Gabby was there with tissues and wine, listening to me sob about how I'd wasted 3 years of my life. When I struggled to find stable work in my field of graphic design, she was the one who encouraged me to freelance and even helped me set up my home office. But lately, something felt off. It started with small things, comments that seemed innocent enough on the surface but left me feeling unsettled. During our last family barbecue, when I mentioned landing a new client for my design business, Gabby had smiled and said, "That's great, Grace. I hope this one works out better than the others." The way she emphasized hope made my stomach twist, though I couldn't pinpoint why. Then there were the looks. Quick glances between her and Gregory when I talked about my work. Whispered conversations that stopped abruptly when I entered a room. My youngest brother Daniel noticed it too, though when I asked him about it, he just shrugged and said I was probably being paranoid. The family group chat had become another source of anxiety. Messages that used to flow freely now felt calculated. When I shared updates about my business or personal life, the responses seemed forced, like everyone was walking on eggshells. Even Mom's usual enthusiastic support felt muted. Last month, things escalated when my boyfriend Marcus started asking strange questions about my work. He'd never shown much interest in the technical aspects of graphic design before, but suddenly he was probing about my client base, my income, and whether I was being honest about my professional success. When I asked where these questions were coming from, he became evasive, saying he was just trying to understand my career better. The breaking point came during Catherine's birthday dinner 2 weeks ago. I'd spent hours creating a custom photo album for her, showcasing our childhood memories and family milestones. As I presented it to her, I caught Gabby rolling her eyes at Gregory. It was subtle, but unmistakable. Later, when I overheard her telling someone on the phone that some people try too hard to compensate for their failures, I felt my blood run cold. Something was happening in my family, and I was starting to suspect that the sister-in-law I'd grown to love and trust was at the center of it. The woman who had held my hand through heartbreak and celebrated my victories might not be the ally I thought she was. As I sat in my car after that birthday dinner, watching my family through the restaurant window, laughing and chatting without me, I realized that the foundation of trust I'd built my adult relationships on might be crumbling beneath my feet. The worst part wasn't just the growing suspicion, it was the isolation. In a family where we shared everything, I suddenly felt like I was on the outside looking in, and I had no idea how I'd gotten there. Looking back, I should have trusted my instincts sooner. The signs were all there, scattered like breadcrumbs through months of family interactions, but I kept making excuses for Gabby because I loved her like a sister. Our relationship hadn't always been this complicated. When Gregory first brought her home 5 years ago, I was skeptical, not because I didn't like her, but because my brother had a history of dating women who saw our close-knit family as competition rather than an extension of love. Gabby was different, or so I thought. She won me over gradually, starting with small gestures that felt genuine. When I was going through my devastating breakup with James, she showed up at my apartment with ice cream and tissues, letting me cry on her shoulder for hours. Family takes care of family, she'd said, and I believed her completely. During my next relationship disaster with Kevin, Gabby was there again. She helped me pack up his belongings, drove me to return them, and even stood guard while I retrieved my things from his place. When I doubted my worth after he cheated, she reminded me of my strengths, my talent, my independence. You're building something amazing with your design business, she'd tell me. Don't let anyone make you forget that. Those moments created a bond I thought was unbreakable. We developed our own traditions, weekly coffee dates, shopping trips, late-night phone calls when either of us needed to vent. When she and Gregory got engaged, I was genuinely thrilled. Finally, a sister who understood me. The first crack appeared last spring during Easter dinner. I'd just landed my biggest client yet, a local restaurant chain that wanted me to redesign their entire brand identity. I was excited to share the news, but when I mentioned the contract value, Gabby's expression shifted slightly. That seems like a lot for someone just starting out, she said with a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. Are you sure you're not overselling yourself? I brushed it off as concern, but Gregory looked uncomfortable. Mom quickly changed the subject, and the moment passed. Later, when I tried to show Gabby some of my design work on my laptop, she seemed distracted, barely glancing at the screen before making polite comments. The pattern continued through the summer. Every professional victory I shared was met with subtle skepticism disguised as protective concern. When I bought new equipment for my home office, she questioned whether I could afford it. When I mentioned expanding my client base, she worried I was taking on too much. Her tone was always loving, sisterly, but the underlying message was clear. She didn't believe in my success. The family dynamics began shifting in ways I couldn't quite pinpoint. Conversations would stop when I entered rooms. Inside jokes emerged that didn't include me. When I asked Gregory about it directly, he became defensive. Gabby's just trying to look out for you, he said. She thinks you might be setting yourself up for disappointment. But it was Marcus who delivered the most devastating blow. 3 months into our relationship, just as things were getting serious, he started questioning everything about my career. The interrogation began casually, asking about my daily schedule, wondering why I worked from home so much, questioning whether graphic design was a real job. I'm just trying to understand, he'd say when I got defensive. It seems like you're always busy, but I never see the results. Are you sure you're being honest about how successful you really are? The questions became more pointed. He wanted to see my contracts, my invoices, proof of my income. When I refused, citing client confidentiality and basic privacy, he accused me of being secretive. If you're really doing as well as you claim, why won't you just show me? Our fights escalated. Marcus began treating me like I was living in a fantasy, making comments about wannabe entrepreneurs and people who can't handle real jobs. The man who had initially been attracted to my independence and creativity now seemed determined to tear down everything I'd built. The breaking point came during a family barbecue in late August. I overheard Marcus talking to Gregory by the grill, their voices low but urgent. I just don't know what to believe anymore, Marcus was saying. She keeps insisting she's this successful designer, but something doesn't add up. Gregory's response chilled me to the bone. Gabby's been worried about the same thing. She thinks Grace might be exaggerating things. You know how she's always been a dreamer. I stood frozen behind the patio door, my world tilting on its axis. My own brother was discussing my supposed dishonesty with my boyfriend, and somehow Gabby was at the center of it all. That night I confronted Marcus directly. Where are these doubts coming from? You've never questioned my work before. He hesitated, then admitted the truth that shattered everything I thought I knew about my family. Gabby's been talking to me. She's concerned about you, Grace. She thinks you're lying about your job, maybe even to yourself. She showed me some things that made her worry you're not being honest about your income or your clients. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. The sister-in-law who had comforted me through heartbreak, who had celebrated my victories, who had earned my complete trust, had been systematically undermining me behind my back. She hadn't just planted seeds of doubt. She'd cultivated them, watered them, and watched them grow until they poisoned my relationship. As I sat in my car outside Marcus's apartment that night, Everything finally made sense. The strange family dynamics, the skeptical looks, the way conversations stopped when I entered rooms. Gabby had been orchestrating it all. She'd convinced my own family that I was a liar, and now she'd destroyed my relationship too. The woman I'd considered a sister had betrayed me in the most calculated, devastating way possible. And the worst part was, I still had no idea why. The next morning, I called in sick to work and drove straight to my parents' house. I needed answers, and I needed them from the source. Mom was in her garden when I arrived, her face lighting up before quickly shifting to concern when she saw my expression. "Grace, honey, what's wrong? You look terrible." "We need to talk. About Gabby. About what she's been telling everyone about me." Mom's face went pale. She set down her pruning shears and gestured toward the patio chairs. "Sit down, sweetheart." For the next hour, the truth came pouring out. Gabby had been coming to family gatherings early, staying late, having private conversations with everyone. She'd shown Mom screenshots of what she claimed were my social media posts, bragging about fake clients. She'd told Dad that she was worried I was living beyond my means, possibly even lying on loan applications. She'd convinced Gregory that I was having some kind of breakdown and creating elaborate fantasies about my career success. "She said she was trying to help," Mom whispered, tears in her eyes. "She made it sound like an intervention was the loving thing to do. She had documents, Grace. Bank statements she said you'd shared with her that didn't match what you were telling us about your income." "What bank statements?" "I never shared anything like that with her." Mom's face crumpled. "She said you'd asked her to help you organize your finances. She showed us papers that looked official." The scope of Gabby's deception was staggering. She hadn't just spread rumors, she'd created evidence. She'd forged documents to support her lies about me. This wasn't casual gossip or misunderstanding. This was a calculated campaign to destroy my credibility with my own family. "Where is she now?" I asked. "At work, I think." "Grace, we need to call Gregory. He needs to know what's really happening." But when we called Gregory, his response shocked us both. "I can't deal with this right now," he said, his voice strained. "Gabby's pregnant, and she's been so stressed about Grace's situation I can't have her upset." Pregnant. The word hit me like a slap. Gabby was pregnant, and somehow that was supposed to excuse everything she'd done to me? I thought about all the times she'd cried on my shoulder about wanting children, how I'd supported her through fertility struggles. Now she was using her pregnancy as a shield against accountability. "Gregory," I said, taking the phone from Mom, "she's been lying about me. She forged documents to make you all think I was dishonest about my work. Grace, please, just give us some space. Gabby's doctor says stress isn't good for the baby." The line went dead. My own brother had chosen his wife's lies over his sister's truth, and he was using her pregnancy to avoid facing what she'd done. But I wasn't giving up. I spent the next 3 days gathering evidence. I printed bank statements, client contracts, payment records. Everything that proved my career was exactly what I'd always said it was. I contacted my biggest clients and asked them to provide written testimonials about our working relationship. I even had my accountant prepare a summary of my business income for the past 2 years. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. I was exactly who I'd always claimed to be. Armed with this proof, I called a family meeting. Only Dad showed up at first, but I insisted we needed everyone there. Eventually, Gregory arrived, looking uncomfortable and defensive. Gabby came 20 minutes later, her hand protectively over her barely visible bump, playing the fragile pregnant woman to perfection. "I don't understand why we're doing this," she said, settling into a chair with exaggerated care. "Grace, I'm only trying to help you. We're all worried about you." I spread the documents across the coffee table like a prosecutor presenting evidence. Bank statements showing consistent deposits from my design clients. Contracts with major companies. Tax returns that matched everything I'd ever told them about my income. Client testimonials praising my work and professionalism. "Explain this," I said, sliding a folder toward Gabby. "These are the bank statements you supposedly got from me. The ones you showed everyone to prove I was lying about my income." Gabby's face went white as she opened the folder. Inside were side-by-side comparisons, the real statements and the obviously altered versions she'd created. The forgeries were good, but not perfect. Account numbers were slightly wrong. Dates didn't align. Most tellingly, the fake statements showed income that was suspiciously lower than what I'd actually been earning, just enough to make my lifestyle seem questionable. I don't understand, Gabby stammered. These must be old statements. Maybe I got confused about which ones you showed me. I never showed you any statements, Gabby. I never asked for your help with my finances. You created these to make everyone think I was lying. Gregory was staring at the documents, his face cycling through confusion, realization, and horror. Gabby, what is this? These numbers are completely different. I'm pregnant, Gabby said, her voice rising. I can't handle this stress. Grace, why are you attacking me like this? I was trying to help you. But Dad was studying the papers with the methodical attention of someone who'd spent 40 years in accounting. These are forgeries, he said quietly. The formatting is wrong. The account numbers don't match the bank's current system. Someone created these to look like Grace's statements. The room fell silent except for Gabby's increasingly frantic breathing. She looked around at all of us, realizing that her carefully constructed lies were crumbling. You don't understand, she said, tears starting to flow. Grace has always had everything so easy. Perfect job, perfect life. I was struggling, and she was just flaunting it all. I thought if everyone knew she wasn't as successful as she pretended, maybe they'd pay attention to me for once. The confession hung in the air like poison. She'd destroyed my relationship with Marcus, damaged my family bonds, and nearly ruined my reputation, all because she was jealous of my success. Gregory stood up slowly, his face ashen. You lied to me. You lied to my family. You made me doubt my own sister. I'm carrying your baby, Gabby screamed. Doesn't that matter more than her hurt feelings? My hurt feelings? I stood up, my voice shaking with rage. You convinced my boyfriend I was a liar. You made my own family think I was delusional. You forged documents to destroy my credibility. This isn't about hurt feelings. This is about you systematically trying to ruin my life. Mom was crying now, reaching for my hand. Grace, I'm so sorry. We should have trusted you. We should have asked you directly instead of believing the woman who's been manipulating all of you for months, I finished. Gregory was pacing now, running his hands through his hair. I need time to think. Gabby, we need to go home. We need to talk. Don't you dare blame me for this, Gabby shouted. I'm the victim here. Grace is trying to turn everyone against me because she can't handle that someone finally called out her lies. But, even as she said it, her voice lacked conviction. The evidence was spread across the table like an indictment, and everyone in the room could see the truth. Gabby had been caught, and her desperate attempts to maintain her victim narrative were only making things worse. As they left, Gregory turned back to me. Grace, I don't know how to fix this, but I'm going to try. I nodded, exhausted but vindicated. The truth was finally out, but I knew this was just the beginning. Gabby's betrayal had damaged more than just my relationship with Marcus. It had shaken the foundation of our entire family. And with the baby coming, the complications were only going to get worse. 8 months later, I sat in Dr. Martinez's office for what would be my final session. The family therapist had become an unexpected anchor during the storm that followed that devastating dinner at Mom and Dad's house. How are you feeling about where things stand now? She asked, her pen poised over her notepad. I considered the question carefully. Peaceful, mostly. It's taken time, but I've learned to set boundaries that actually protect me. The months after Gabby's confession had been turbulent. Gregory had moved out temporarily, staying with Dad while he processed everything. Gabby had given birth to a beautiful daughter, Lily, but their marriage remained strained. Gregory was trying to be a good father while grappling with the reality of who he'd married. And your relationship with your brother? We're rebuilding, I said honestly. It's slow, but he's putting in the work. He started therapy too, trying to understand how he got so manipulated. We have coffee every other week now, just the two of us. Gregory had been devastated when he realized the full extent of Gabby's deception. He'd found more lies about her job, her past, even about some of her family stories. The woman he'd married wasn't who he thought she was. What about Marcus? I smiled slightly. We're taking it slow, but we're trying again. He apologized for not trusting me, and I apologized for not fighting harder to make him listen. We both learned something about communication. Marcus had reached out 3 weeks after the truth came out. Gregory had called him personally to explain everything and apologize. It had taken months of careful conversation, but we were dating again, this time with a foundation of honesty about our communication patterns. And Gabby? My expression grew more serious. I don't see her anymore. Gregory brings Lily to family gatherings without her sometimes. I love my niece, but I can't have Gabby in my life. She's never actually apologized. She still claims she was, quote, protecting the family from my lies. Dr. Martinez nodded. That's a healthy boundary. You can love your niece without exposing yourself to continued manipulation. Mom and Dad had been horrified when they understood the full scope of what had happened. They'd insisted on family therapy sessions, desperate to repair the damage. It had helped, but some things couldn't be undone. Trust, once broken so completely, took time to rebuild. I work with family therapists to heal relationship betrayal wounds, I continued. Not just here, but I've started volunteering with a support group for people who've experienced family manipulation. It's helped me process everything while helping others. The support group had been Dad's suggestion, surprisingly. He'd been researching family manipulation and found the organization. Helping others navigate similar betrayals had given my experience meaning beyond just personal pain. Your parents? They're trying hard. Too hard sometimes, I laughed softly. Mom calls every day, and Dad sends me articles about sibling relationships. They feel guilty, but we're working through it. They've learned to ask me directly about things instead of accepting secondhand information. The family dynamics had shifted permanently. Everyone was more careful now, more direct in their communication. In some ways, Gabby's betrayal had forced us to develop healthier patterns, even though the cost had been enormous. What's next for you? I thought about my life now. My job was going well, my relationship with Marcus was stronger than before, and I'd found purpose in helping others heal from family betrayal. The apartment I'd moved into after everything fell apart had become a sanctuary, decorated exactly how I wanted it. I'm thinking about going back to school for counseling, I said. Working with the support group has shown me how much I want to help people navigate family trauma professionally. Dr. Martinez smiled. That sounds like a wonderful way to transform your experience into something meaningful. As I left her office for the last time, I felt a sense of completion I hadn't expected. The betrayal had nearly destroyed me, but surviving it had taught me things about myself I never would have learned otherwise. I was stronger now, more discerning about who I trusted, but not bitter. Gabby was still in our family's orbit because of Lily, but she no longer had the power to hurt me. I learned to protect myself without becoming closed off to love and connection. Walking to my car, I thought about the dinner party I was hosting this weekend. Marcus, my parents, Gregory, and little Lily. Gabby wouldn't be there, and that was okay. We'd found a way to be a family that worked for everyone who was willing to be honest and kind. The sun was setting as I drove home, painting the sky in soft oranges and pinks. For the first time in over a year, I felt truly at peace with my family situation. The chaos was over, the truth had prevailed, and the people who mattered had chosen love over manipulation. It was finally over, and the silence felt earned.